Assalamu alaikum and a very warm welcome to the debate. I'm Tayyaba Nisar Khan in place of Sana Maqbool for today. We, of course, are going to talk about two very, very important topics. The first topic is going to be the missile misfire, misadventure by India and the technological flaw that they're claiming that, of course, came into Pakistan's territory, 124 kilometers inside Pakistan's territory and stayed for 3 minutes, 24 seconds inside the territory. And, of course, the second topic is going to be about the political situation and the big jalsa that's going to take place on 27th of March, where, of course, they're claiming that 300,000 people are going to come as well and take part in the jalsa. 70 union territories, each of one has been given the duty of bringing 100 people, and we will of course witness a very, very massive jalsa in the D-Chalk as well. And of course, with the view of vote of no confidence motion set by the opposition party as well, we're going to see what happens and how the PTI government is going to ensure that the no confidence motion, of course, it goes into their favor as well, and it is also defeated as well. And of course, now we are going to see the assault and the video for the first topic, which of course is the missile misfire again by India and the misadventure by the technological flaw that they've been claiming. And let's take a look at that and then come back.
Whoops. So this story is in the Metro.
I love this story.
Bit of a whoopsie. So India accidentally fired a missile into Pakistan, and that's not great. So their neighbours, they both have nuclear weapons, and this is not the case of just a football going over a fence. Basically, India apologised and sort of said, sorry, we didn't mean to, and it was due to a technical malfunction. I mean, like, who works there? Homer Simpson?
Well, I think that's the problem. There is an Indian Homer Simpson who just rested his coffee cup on the wrong button. And we've got World War III.
What is it? Is it like, I thought, is it like the cleaning person? They went in, they're like, oh yeah, no, I've had a terrible click. Oh, what does that one do?
It's such a highly militarized area like the Korean border. I'm surprised it doesn't happen more often, really.
Yeah.
You know, all of this over Kashmir, it's a lovely fabric, but is it really worth killing each other for, really?
Well, yes, I mean, during the first Gulf War, we heard about friendly fire for the first time, didn't we? And this is when American jets would shoot down Allied planes or vice versa. And this is particularly unfriendly fire, isn't it? In a very sensitive region of the world.
Yeah, it's really highly sensitive. And, you know, I think, and China's also nervous there, too, because that's one of the, it's an area they're very interested in right now, too. So they're trying to calm the storm that's going on as well.
So have the Indians apologised? Have they sent flowers?
Well, they should have. I mean, Pakistan has thrown a bit of shade their way. Pakistan has warned India to be mindful, which I think is very shady considering that India created yoga and mindfulness as we know it.
Well,
so
exactly right.
Practice what you preach.
If someone fires a bomb at my house, one good thing they can do is send over a nice meal. I suggest that because the food is so good from India, send over a nice takeaway, you know, just say, look what we've done.
A very, very interesting take by, of course, that channel and the lady over there who was, of course, ensuring that India is, you know, the highlight of what India's misadventure and technical flaw was. A very, very interesting, of course, take on that as well, of course. But first, let's introduce the guests. We have been joined by the geopolitical analyst, Mr. Raja Faisal, but more importantly, we've been joined by Farrukh Pitafi, who's a senior analyst. Welcome back, Farrukh. How do you feel coming back here?
I'm very happy. Thank you very much for having me.
Of course, and we're very happy to have you back as well. We're glad that you're as young and as healthy as ever. We've also been joined by Farrukh Raja, who's a geopolitical analyst as well. Welcome to PTV World.
Thank you. Thank you so very much.
Of course. Now, Mr. Adil, I'm going to ask you the first question. The missile was fired at 40,000 kilometers. It was actually traveling 40,000 kilometers, you know, above the ground, and it was at the speed of Mach 3. Was this really a maintenance failure?
Well, you see, before we go on to the real topic, I would like to welcome Mr. Pitafi. It's very, it's very good to see him back. It's very heartening to see him back. Welcome back, Mr. Pitafi. Now, we are going back to the topic. You see, Indians say on March 9th, 2022, after the DGISPR held a press conference, and they said that we have found a supersonic object originating from Sirsa. Sirsa is in western Haryana, and that has crashed inside the Pakistani airspace, and the Pakistani Air Defense Center of the Pakistani Air Force detected the missile from its point of originating in West Haryana up till it landed in the Pakistani area of Mia Channu. Now, they said that it was during a routine maintenance, it was an accidental firing, as if it is, fireworks for Shabarat, that they will go out on just like that. Anyway, Indians have got a history of accidents as such, so you cannot really blame them. Their satellites have been seeing sharks on Mars. You know that incident, very funny incident, also made global headlines, which you've shown just now. I'll quickly go over the what part. What was it? You see, senior Pakistan Air Force officers have been quoted as saying that the structure of this missile, especially the honeycomb shape of the tail, it tells us that it is the Indian BrahMos missile. Now, BrahMos missile is a joint protection of India and Russia. It is named, in fact, on the rivers Moskova and Brahmaputra in India and Moskova in Russia. That is why they call it BrahMos. Now, this medium range BrahMos is designated as PJ-10. It is a supersonic cruise missile, one of the fastest in the world, mind you, and that can be launched from Air Force, Navy, and land platforms as well. It is based on Russian P-800 Onyx cruise missile series, which has got sea skimming technology, and it has been jointly developed by Russia and uh, India, as I've told you. Now, India is currently, the important point to note over here is that India is currently working on its hypersonic version, BrahMos 2, capable of cruising at Mach 7 to 8. Now, this version is expected to be ready and tested by 2024, and that would definitely boost India's aerial strike capability. Its current range is 800 kilometer and planned is 1500. Currently, 65% of the missile is being made by Russia. Now, India wants to make it up till 85% in India, but that is so far it is only a wish. Now, its inertial navigation system, mind you, it's very important. Its inertial navigation system uses the Indian, US, and Russian satellites, navigation satellites. It provides them high accuracy below 5 meters. Now, on 30th September 2022, its extended range over 400 kilometer supersonic cruise version was successfully test fired using indigenous airframe and booster from a land-based facility in Odessa in Russia. And on 24th November 2022, DRDO in India successfully test fired its upgraded version of 800 kilometer. There have been failures as well, and the failures have been in India. The missiles have failed after short flight, and they've blamed it on the software of the missile. Now, at present, this BrahMos surface-launched Block 1 version has 4 variants, mind you, with 2 upgraded variants, 1 anti-aircraft variant, 2 air-launched variants, and 3 submarine-launched variants. A more versatile and lighter variant, it is important to note, is BrahMos NG. From NG, it means next generation. Now, this BrahMos NG is only 1.5 ton and is just 5 meter long and 50 centimeter in diameter. Now, most probably the missile which came down in Pakistan was BrahMos NG, the next generation. And this gives us sort of an indication that this BrahMos next generation, it was expected to test fire in 2022. They didn't tell us, but they were going through this exercise over there. And it gives them an indication that it might have been fired to test the air defense system of Pakistan, test the reaction of Pakistan. But
Right.
that most why I'm saying this is because most test launches of these missiles are in their ranges in Pokhran range. Now that is in Thar. In this case, it was fired from Western Haryana and Punjab, and it came all the way down to the south, and then they changed the direction. This missile has got the capability to test the Pakistani air defense system, and I think the Pakistanis played very wise by letting it drop because it was not coming to any strategic target,
Right.
and they allowed it to drop. Ji.
Absolutely. Mr. Farrukh, a very, very comprehensive analysis that you've given us right there. Now, Farrukh, I'm going to ask you the route that the Indian missile took, the flying object that we're, of course, calling it right now. But, of course, as he's mentioned, it could be a BrahMos class as well. Of course, the honeycomb pattern that suggested as well. Now, Farrukh, the route that's been taken. It was going down into Rajasthan, and then suddenly it went into Mia Channu, and we see that it's, it traveled 124 kilometers, and it came from 104 kilometers from India's territory, from Odisha. Now, do you think this was a mistake, a technological flaw, when the route was, taken in such an abrupt manner?
Right, Tayyaba, first of all, let me, through your good offices, thank both Raja Faisal and our good friend Raja Saab as well, who has joined us. And earlier you were listening to his commentary. Thank you very much as well for welcoming me back. Now, I understand this skepticism of yours and Raja Saab's and everybody else's, because India seems to be very vigilant. Remember, every other day they arrest a pigeon from Pakistan and they shake it down, right? Or perhaps there are balloons that that are actually PIA shaped that they arrest, and then they tell us that they are actually fighting terrorism or whatever goes on. So it doesn't actually add up that Indian missile will be launched in this way, and it will end up in Pakistan, especially given that both the countries have this command and control history, and they have this eyeball to eyeball confrontation as well that has continued for past 74 years, 75 perhaps. But to tell you the truth, I think at this moment this whole story has unmitigated disaster written all over it. Earlier you were looking at a video, that clip that you showed us, especially they were making light of a nuclear situation between two countries. Remember, everywhere in the country, in the world where you have nukes, you don't have this kind of nuclear density of nuclear powers like India, Pakistan and China. 3 nuclear countries sitting next to each other.
Absolutely.
So here you have to have responsibility. I don't think that this was by design. I think Pakistan's demand to have some joint investigation will be very useful, and the way Indians have behaved, and they have actually said sorry, that is obnoxious. This could have very easily led to a kind of nuclear confrontation or some kind of escalation that would have reduced half of this region to ashes or cinders. Luckily
Absolutely.
that didn't happen. But how long are we going to put up with India that is ruled by BJP, and then under the garb of modernizing or jointness, they have destroyed everything they already had, and so far they haven't been able to build something new. So in the end, you don't know whether it was some kind of coup that was there, whether it was really a technical mistake or something weird that happened. At this moment, we should be looking at what is going on in India, and the entire world should be joining us in this worry that India can become something really, really bad in very little time.
Now, coming back to the international community, before that, I'm going to ask, of course, Raja Faisal, this question that a technological flaw, if we actually consider it a technological flaw, a misadventure, a situation that could have escalated, especially if it had a payload, if it had a warhead on the missile, then it could have caused a lot of collateral damage, Faisal. And of course, in a nuclearized environment where we have the strategic stability intact and it is so sensitive, and then of course Balakot incident earlier, and then we had the Kargil conflict as well, despite the nuclearized conflict, why would India continue to have these technological issues?
Taiba, as they say, and I would translate it into English, that you give a matchbox to a monkey, he'll burn down the jungle. This is what is happening right now. Highly irresponsible of Indian government, Indian institutions, Indian army, Indian DRDO, everyone. And by the way, I just wanted to tell you, to me, I think, BrahMos, NG, it's more like a tiki pack version of MiG-21, because if you look at its face, it entirely looks like MiG-21. So to me, it's a tiki pack of MiG-21.
We should have probably given tea to this as well.
Yeah, but obviously it was unmanned. If it was, then of course the tea would have been served as it has been served back in February 2019. But coming back to, responsibility, it's highly irresponsible of institutions of India and government of India. India as a state, it's highly irresponsible. Why I say this, if we take the example of Friday's CCS, right after DGISPR's in the evening when he did a presser. Next day, early in the morning, there was a CCS meeting called in New Delhi, and Raksha Mantri or Defense Minister of India, Rajnath Singh, he begged Modi to come and attend that and chair that meeting, but he didn't do it. Rather, he went to Gujarat and he attended political rallies and shows. Why? Because he was highly embarrassed at the performance of DRDO, and he himself said that why you have put me in this position while the election is at full swing, and he was embarrassed. And to me, I think is one of the biggest failures of India in current times, and they wanted to die it down. They wanted it not to come on and highlighted on media, because the only reason was that they knew that they should be embarrassed on this kind of recklessness at behalf of DRDO. And I tell you about CCS meeting. My sources, they told me on Friday around daytime, and they said that the statement which would come out of this, number one, Modi did not want to be part of it because he was highly embarrassed and gutted. And number two, the whole obviously blame would be given on DRDO. Even Chief of the Army Staff, he was staying away of it. The only reason behind it was that what kind of army he's leading, the army that can switch anything on at any time. And it's a bunch of jokers sitting out there, and knowing the fact that there are two nuclear states facing off each other at all times, and this is the level of their expertise and their professionalism. While sitting there, they can press on any button.
Absolutely.
And malfunction can take place. Right. And they were they highlighted that DRDO would take the whole responsibility of it. It's not about DRDO. I think Prime Minister Modi, who happens to be head of the state of India, head of government, and he's the one who's supposed to call the shots. Pakistan, being a Pakistani, I think Pakistan should not accept any apologies unless it is coming from Modi.
Now, Faisal,
right. Can I invert
absolutely.
the whole argument?
Go ahead.
Just as a very quick hypothetical. Just reverse the roles. Imagine
Absolutely.
a missile was flying from
Absolutely.
Pakistan into India. What would have happened, right?
An international outcry.
Exactly. Not only that, perhaps a war. Already India would have been showing you eyes, right? At this moment, it is important to remind the world that somehow this seems like a Bollywood kind of, switch between plot twist actually. That the country everybody used to think that is responsible, that was India, somehow has become highly responsible. And the country like Pakistan, that was repeatedly accused of being irresponsible one, is telling you to behave well, right? Instead of fighting back, instead of throwing back something else in response, we are showing that there is restraint. But honestly, the way this went out, I think it could have escalated into something very bad.
Absolutely.
At a time when Russia and Ukraine situation is pretty bad, when there is already enough, fault line between the Arab world and Iran and Israel and umpteen other places, you could have started without knowing a world war. Please, heaven's sake, have some show.
Absolutely.
Some sanity.
Faisal, I'm going to cut you over here because we're going to first go on to Adil Farrukh right now. Of course, we've talked about how Farrukh has talked about how Pakistan has shown restraint, not just now, but also in the Balakot 2019 incident as well, and earlier on as well. Pakistan has been continuously showing restraint and ensuring that the strategic stability remains intact. On the contrary, if this happened and the roles were reversed, this would have not been the case. Now, Mr. Adil, I'm going to ask you, when will the international community recognize the Pakistani restraint?
You see, the double standards of the international community are already on display. I mean, you really do not have to go delve deep into it to understand the global level of hypocrisy when it comes to India and Pakistan. and that may it be FATF, may it be terrorism. I mean, once you're comparing India with Pakistan, because Indian strategic interests are entwined with U.S., so that's why the international community are always, Pakistan is at a disadvantage if the analysis of international community. Now, given the Indian offensive posturing and the chest beating recently, and the missile significant features which I've already told you previously, this does not seem so innocently accidental an incident. It could have been a deliberate effort to check Pakistan's air defense readiness, both at PAF and Army levels, as I've told you. And I am going to agree 10% with Raja Faisal over here and Pitafi Saab for showing restraint. Yes, we've showed restraint. That's not going to get us any brownie points, because we are considered the bad guys along with the Chinese and Russians. I mean, that is a given stamp on us now, so we shouldn't really bother. But this does bring us to the implication of the incident. I mean, as already I've told you, that this unarmed missile not only endangered domestic and international aviation traffic in both India and Pakistani airspace, I mean, it could have easily caused massive casualties in case of hitting our densely populated towns in Punjab. I mean, thankfully there was no casualty, but this again indicates that it was an not innocently accidental launch, but it was a deliberate test of our defenses, and our restraint, in fact, helped us not to reveal our capability to shoot them down. I mean, we really, after the Balakot air strike, we revealed our capability. We lost an edge. We showed them that we can jam their communication. As a result, they went to Israel and they changed their entire communication mechanism. So now again, we had to, upgrade our own defenses and jamming capability as well. Now, one only hopes that Indian military planners comprehend the gravity of the error that goes beyond their. I mean, this clarification, it seems like a joke. I mean, and clarification only came after they had been exposed by ISPR.
Absolutely.
And, this sort of launch can very easily lead to a nuclear exchange between both the countries.
Faisal, you have something to say?
Yeah, Taiba, I just wanted to highlight here that Pakistan, we know under Prime Minister Imran Khan, has a multipolar stance. Pakistan believes in, multilateralism. Pakistan wants to have very good relations with all of the countries. Why I say this? Because in Quad, there are 4 countries. One is India, and then Japan, Australia, and America. Pakistan need to, contact with other 3 and tell them that they need to buckle up their friend in the Indo-Pacific, which is India, and they need to buckle that up. Otherwise, because their friend is all set and ready to ignite anything in the region, and we having we both of the states being nuclear states, as Major Adil has just mentioned, I think world needs to look into it deeply, and world needs to probe it.
Absolutely, the world needs to probe it. Now, coming back to the basic question, where of course we know that the missile remained in the Pakistani territory for 3 minutes 24 seconds, and then there was no clarification for 72 hours. Farrukh, what took so long for the Indian government, the DRDO, to take responsibility?
Look, earlier our friend Raja Faisal actually translated a Punjabi saying. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to translate an Urdu, a little bit of poetry, and that is "Pehle aati thi hale dil pe hasi, ab kisi baat pe nahi aati." Right? There was a time when I used to laugh at the state of my heart. Now I don't laugh at anything at all. Right? At this moment, what is happening in India? Actually, it takes me back a couple of decades ago. If you remember, General Pervez Musharraf used to talk about Pakistan needing soft image projection. The problem with image projection is that you can have perhaps the best, propaganda mechanism in the world, and yet you cannot negotiate or renegotiate the reality what is going on the ground. True. The way India has melted down under Narendra Modi and his very esteemed team because of their economic experiments and the way they have actually experimented with India's army, which was working fine. And then they actually just brought it down, and now they are trying to reconstruct something which will not work. In that situation, anything can happen. The problem right now is that we cannot even trust the facts, the numbers. Every time India gives out its own budget numbers, what happens? IMF, by the way, IMF's chief economist is a woman who is of Indian origin, but she comes on record and contradicts India's own numbers. This is the state of affairs in India. Similarly, when you talk about army, you can procure all the equipment from all over the world. But how are you going to integrate that? How are you going to train your own people to man those things?
Absolutely.
That's why you're looking at a disaster that will continue unabated.
A disaster that will continue. And of course, in the
Excuse
past few months, we've also seen Bipin Rawat, of course, dying due to a technological flaw in the helicopter. So many technological
That was
flaws.
a technological flaw.
Absolutely. So many technological flaws taking place. Faisal, these technological flaws are not only costing their own country, but also the relations with their neighboring countries. When is the international community going to intervene and try to tell India, try to hammer some sense into them?
Taiba,
And also, I'm sorry to cut you short, but also, what is the purpose of all these defense technologies that they're trying to buy with Russia, S-400 and whatnot?
Taiba, once again, I would say it's, it's not the gun that matters, it's the man behind the gun that matters, as we always hear this. And to me, I think right now, men behind the guns, the Indian men behind the guns, they're jokers. They are jokers, and that's why we are seeing, these kind of jokes coming out of India right now, that, oh, somebody just, it was a malfunction. Hey, what kind of malfunction it was? Even if it was a malfunction.
They shot their own plane as a result of Balakot.
Exactly. Yeah, but Major Adil has just highlighted one other fact, that they shot their own plane. And what kind of men behind the guns they have right now? And by the way,
hang on. Just to remind you what propaganda can do and how it can beguile your own people. Remember, they still believe that they downed a Pakistani F-16 during the right?
Exactly.
And then they also believe that they killed something like 200 phantom people in Balakot.
Yeah.
So this is their problem. They are looking inside, and they are being beguiled by their own propaganda.
Exactly.
And that becomes a problem.
Exactly. And I think their allies, likes of US and the Western countries, they need to realize this, that right now the offices, the big offices which are being held by the people who are in the big offices, they do not deserve them offices, because they hail from a particular ideology which is considered as a sort of venom for the region right now. And I'm talking about Hindutva ideology. Why I say this? Because we are seeing a general like Nirwane in the big office right now, but mind you, he would not be in that big office after May. And in May, as we have been continuously highlighting,
Pandey.
And Pandey ji, Lieutenant General Pandey, who happens to be, Vice Chief of Army Staff right now, he will be becoming a Chief of the Army Staff, and he hails from Nagpur. We time and again,
And
highlighted.
he is an engineer, right?
And
so that means technological problems should go down.
Should
but
go
they're
down,
not going down.
but it is not. Why? Because he hails from an ideology, and that is Hindutva ideology.
Yes.
The only reason he gets promoted everywhere is just because of one reason, that he hails from Nagpur, and he hails from Hindutva ideology.
Exactly. Now,
Right,
Faisal,
so very quickly, when you said he hails from an ideology, I thought that it was plane crash ideology. Or
Yeah.
right?
Because it should be considered
planes
that.
keep on
let's
crashing
go
all the
to
time.
Major Adil now. Of
please.
course, we know that the elections were taking place in Uttar Pradesh as well. And earlier in the Balakot crisis, there were elections going on and they were about to take place, and Modi wanted to win as well. So can we somehow relate the domestic politics with their accidental flaws and technological issues? As you've rightly mentioned, it could have been a misadventure or the testing of defense of Pakistan?
You see, first and foremost, let us be very sure about one thing, that the Indians, which we call Indians, are purely delusional, drunk upon the Kool-Aid of, given to them by the Godi media. It's an international terminology now, Godi media. What is it? Now, BJP's election, as far as the BJP's election is concerned, BJP's electoral politics is a mind game. I tell you, if you go through the numbers, they are not a majority party all across India. I mean, they are only holding clear-cut majority in only 6 of the states. The rest of the states, they're only there in minority, but they're in the ruling coalition because they have been able to form the government in the center. Now, all this BJP politics revolves around the RSS terrorist network, which starts from the sakshas of school-going children and which goes up to they become prime minister. I mean, the example of Prime Minister Narendra Modi himself is there. So this purely delusional concept of Hindutva and Hindu Rashtra, which they have been trying to sell as a Kool-Aid to Modi media, it's not really working out for them. The current election results where Aam Aadmi Party has beat them fair and square, that is an indication towards the fall of the right-wing politics in India. And with that, I think there would come a point where after some year, maybe we can find a path of peace, because peace is the logical way forward. But if they do not want that, and if they want to keep on hyping up this ultra-nationalist sentiments of the Hindus and keep selling them this Kool-Aid of Hindu Rashtra and Hindutva, then we are always ready. We gave them fantastic tea, and next time we are going to give them some beating with that fantastic tea as well. And we are very much capable of, tackling their intrusions like this radar. We might not have shot it down, but we are completely capable to shoot it down. We've got HQ-9T systems over here. We've got supersonic missiles of our own. We can strike back. We've got second strike capability. If they do not want to tread on the way of peace, because peace is the logical way forward, then we have got what they're asking from us. We are ready for them anytime. We have never ever compromised on our defense, and we are never going to do that.
Absolutely, we're never going to compromise on our defense. And of course, we tracked down within the territory of India as well. When it was flying inside the territory, we tracked it down when we knew it was going to fall in Mia Channu as well. And of course, Pakistan Army, Pakistan Air Force and Navy is always on alert. And of course, there have been 5 incidents of submarine entering Pakistan's exclusive economic zone as well. And that's a big issue as well, and getting caught as well, and being, of course, driven away by Pakistan Navy as well. So Pakistan is, of course, very well vigilant as well. Thank you for joining us, Major Farrukh Raja. It was a pleasure having you and taking your analysis as well. Of course, now it's time to go on to our second segment. Yes, Farrukh, go ahead.
For a very quick intervention. They say, whom the gods would destroy, they make them mad, right? And that is what seems to be happening in India. India used to be this cradle of democracy, economic development and everything. All of a sudden, Modi happened, and now look at what is going on in India. India's largest stock exchange, its head was a woman who has been apprehended because for years she kept on taking guidance from a fake yogi who was actually nothing but an email.
Through email.
Right? That is how things are going in India.
And she's never met him.
If you are watching, yeah, absolutely. But if you are watching this, and if you are watching the news coming from from India, all over the world, whether you are an Indian or someone of Indian origin or somebody else, you should really be worried what is going on in India. Absolutely. Because it can destroy civilization.
Absolutely, and many of the people, Farrukh, are very worried about what's going on. And it's not just the technological flaw that's going on, it's also the governmental flaw, the good governance, the lack of it, and the fact that there's so much bias against people of different races, minorities in Nagaland, also against Muslims, of course, we all know that. Yeah. But let's, of course, move on to our next segment, which is going to be about the political situation of Pakistan. And we know on 27th of March, there's going to be a very, very big rally, and Prime Minister Imran Khan is going to head that at D Chowk. Expected people, 300,000, are going to come, and of course there is a huge hue and cry by the opposition parties as well. But we know that Prime Minister Imran Khan himself and the coalition government is very, very satisfied with the fact that they will be able to defeat the no confidence as well. Now, first of all, Farrukh, I'm going to go towards you.
Okay. I was hoping you'll go to Faisal.
Okay, let's go to Farrukh first, and then we're going to go to Faisal, of course. Okay. But let's ask first, what is expected of Prime Minister Imran Khan's speech? Because they say that he's going to lay out the future strategy, and it's going to be very big.
Right. First of all, at this moment, we have officially entered into the political, scenario where one has to be very careful in what we are going to say on television
Yes.
and what we are going to analyze. Because if you haven't noticed, our media, particularly the private media, 50 plus channels, they have all gone mad. And they are gone mad so much so that everybody has their own they are not even entitled to their own views. They now seem to be entitled to their own facts. At this moment, there are many things that are going on. For example, the first thing, you know about the vote of no confidence and all that chitter chatter that continues in the media, that perhaps it is going to remove the Prime Minister or this government. Then you just keep on trying to trace what exactly is the origin. One, it all started from the day when there was a matter of extension. And half the media that keeps on claiming that it is the custodian of democracy, all of a sudden started rooting for some kind of undemocratic change in the country. That is one thing. The second one is, of course, there are many moving parts. There is PMLN, there is People's Party, there are umpteen other allies of the government as well. So media keeps on putting a spin to everything and they keep on inhaling their own propaganda. At this moment, it seems that the government can also face a similar kind of situation when its own tribalistic associates can feed something of similar sort. So it is very important to be responsible right now.
Absolutely.
The second thing is, let us try to avoid confrontation, right?
True.
Because it is very important. Now, regarding this big jalsa, I don't know whether it is going to take place on 27th, 28th, 29th.
27th.
Yeah, and you're talking about the facts which are reported. I'm saying that we don't know what will happen in coming days, right? But the point is, whatever happens, I don't see any kind of confrontation. And I don't see any threat to democracy in this country.
Absolutely. Faisal, now I'm going to ask you, the Qureshi, Foreign Minister Qureshi has also said that the entire process is going to be very democratic and very constitutional. And he's reiterated that the opposition should also ensure that it should be democratic and constitutional. And right now, Farrukh has also highlighted that the responsibility of media is also very significant at this matter. So, of course, I'm going to ask you, how should media ensure the democratic and constitutional matter is ensured? And of course, how can both the parties, the government coalition and the opposition, ensure that this is very smooth?
Taiba, the way Farrukh Bhai, he has just highlighted, I think that is the only problem which is being faced by politics of Pakistan right now. I mean, there are shows, there are piece of news that are based on, biasness from, it's quite easy for me and for Farrukh Bhai and for you to understand what which of the channels are on which side and which are on the other side.
Tribalism.
Yeah. And this is what is going on, and I think right now what we need to do is, as most of the news which are being created, they are being created from the social media. Just looking at the social media, whatever somebody is saying, they're making a news of it, and majority of the stuff is being surfaced on social media is the fake. It's the fake, and it should be entirely done on the fact basis. As once CJ Shivers, he said that what you see on social media is not news. News is what you create out of it.
Absolutely.
So the service to the nation is not being done by the news channels, I must say, and they need to be non-biased, and they need to look at the current situation as well, what kind of situation Pakistan is going through, and they need to look at Pakistan's foreign policy, where
Yes.
Pakistan was standing, and who could go against it, and who was meeting whom, and that whom is from where. And these sort of things, they must be highlighted, and it must be talked about on the basis of the facts. Now coming to this political rally which is being planned for 27th of this month of March, just a day before the no confidence vote, I think to me, that is part of the democratic system as well. That is part of the no confidence vote as well. Why I say this? Because if we talk about democracy, democracy is all about, government of people, by the people, of the people. So on 27th, the people who would be standing with their prime minister, that would be counted as well, because that is part of the democracy, and democracy is all about people.
Absolutely.
So the number of people would matter a lot, and there is a psychological factor about it as well. And to me, I think whatever is going on, let me give a prophecy as well about this. On the basis of, I have been, of course, talking to quite a few people, and they are very well placed within the political parties, and a journalist has every right to do that. So to me, I think the biggest sort of statement would be coming from Jahangir Khan Tareen, and to me, what I hear is that Jahangir Khan Tareen has played his own political innings, and he is not deciding anything on the basis of what kind of political future he wants for himself. Rather, he's thinking about his son Ali Tareen's future, and whatever he comes up with, that would be all about Ali Khan Tareen and his political future. To me, what it seems as that, as we know, that Ali Tareen, he has always idolized Prime Minister of Pakistan. So to me, I think Prime Minister of Pakistan is all confident, because he knows the biggest statement would be coming out from JKT corner, and that would be in the favor of government.
Very interesting. Now, Farrukh, I'm going to come back to you. Of course, you can comment on this, and then I can ask a question.
No, but if you want to ask a question, please go ahead.
Okay, sure.
Because then I'm going to help you actually parse everything and
Wonderful.
help you understand what are the trends and what exactly the propaganda makes them to be, right? And it is very important to understand, but go ahead.
Okay, so I wanted to ask, the OIC is coming up, a very big meeting for Pakistan as well, for the region, for the entire international community, and Pakistan is trying to exert its own stand and to try to help Afghans in this situation of humanitarian crisis as well. And right now, political cohesion is very important as well. So how is this political issue going to cause the, going to impact rather OIC meeting? And I hope it goes smoothly. What do you think?
Well, first of all, I mean, this is not the first OIC, meeting that is taking place. The previous one, and we were sitting here commenting on it when it happened. I think it will take place the way it is supposed to. Why wouldn't it? See, this is the problem, and you'll have to understand what exactly is going on. This is a party which has come to power for the first time, right? It might be their first rodeo, but people like me and perhaps Raja also, we have seen other previous governments as well. So all this din all of a sudden and all this chaos on television makes you believe that something fishy is going on, which is not true. Look, the first interpretation that somehow this vote of no confidence has something to do with what? With civil-military relations. Honestly, I've seen enough coups and changes in Pakistan to know that if those forces that be wanted to bring about change, they don't need this pattern.
Exactly.
They can do it very effectively within 5 minutes
Absolutely.
without any problem, right? This has happened in the past.
For the larger interest of
Pakistan. Whatever, through the courts, through other systems, whatever it is, right? So it is not that. The second interpretation, foreign policy or somehow other forces are conspiring, right? Again, I don't think that superpowers or influential powers are so lame that they will, rely on beaten teams to bring about the change, right? Then now look at the political parties which are there. One, PMLN, which still cannot work out a prime ministerial candidate.
True.
Right? The only party, and I think which is the smartest party, and we keep on underestimating it, is People's Party. People's Party has some of the best advisors possible.
True. Yes.
For example, people who are sitting outside and inside the country, they keep on educating it, and they have the strategy of playing everybody else against everybody else. And because of that, we keep on seeing strange kind of visions. And in the end, what will happen, I can tell you. if there is a vote of no confidence and if it succeeds,
Right.
who is going to be the PM? Can
Right.
you give me a name?
I'm going to stay quiet.
No, from opposition parties. Do you see any? I can give you a name. Accidentally, somehow it will be Khurshid Shah who will become Prime Minister. The way he actually came out of jail, the way he has become a biggest factor, and now he's going to be there.
Right.
Then the second name is Asif Ali Zardari, because last time Asif Ali Zardari said that some Sharif Admi will become the Prime Minister. And who was standing next to him? It was Bilawal, and he snorted at that time, right?
I thought he was talking about Shahbaz Sharif.
No.
Unfortunately, we're running out of time.
Very quickly, I just wanted to tell you, at this moment, the government also needs to do one thing, and opposition does also. They need to switch off televisions and media for 2 days. Step away and just relax. Nothing strange is going to happen. At this moment, this propaganda is just pundits going wild and mad.
Absolutely.
And
Right.
don't allow them to just, pollute your minds.
Right. Thank you, Farrukh, for that analysis. Of course, a very significant analysis. And going back to what you said, this is a time for democratic and constitutional cohesion right now. Of course, whatever the difference of opinion in politics, that always happens, but we have to ensure the larger interest of Pakistan remains intact in a situation where, of course, India is also firing technologically flawed missiles into Pakistan as well. That's very important. So, of course, a political cohesion would be great, but even if there are differences of opinion, everything has to go smoothly, and we hope for that as well. Thank you for watching. Unfortunately, we're running out of time, but it was goodbye from me and Farrukh as well as Faisal. Take care of yourselves. Allah Hafiz.